often go by the nickname Shay. I'm the oldest of four, and my family and I are originally from Columbia, South Carolina. I also attended college there at the University of South Carolina for my undergraduate studies, and then went on to obtain my MBA in HR management from Winthrop University, which is in a small town called Rock Hill, South Carolina, just about 20 miles outside of Charlotte, North Carolina. I now reside in Atlanta, Georgia, and have spent the last 8 years of my career working in program management, talent acquisition, DEI, and HR operations. I currently serve as the Global Operations Manager for Women Who Code. So I work on our global program team closely with Shauna Gregory and Josie Rosenberg, and I'm excited to have this conversation with you all today.
Great. Welcome, Shay. Kim, please introduce yourself and welcome to the panel.
Yes, thank you. Hi, everyone. My name is Kimberly Bennett. I am a trademark and business strategy attorney at Women Who Code. I am legal counsel as well as brand strategist. I am a practicing attorney that comes from, I'm a native New York, New Jersey individual, and I've been running my practice and working in this space for over 10 years. One of the things that brings me here is really thinking about how I show up and how I think about how this impacts me daily, right? I have been in my industry for years. I've watched things change and move and maybe not change fast enough. So I'm really excited to have this conversation and really talk about how we as a community can move forward now.
Great, thank you, Kim, for being here. Richard, welcome to the panel. I'd love to give you a chance to introduce yourself.
Yes, thank you very much. Well, good afternoon, everyone. Good morning, everyone. My name is Richard Bakare. Native Atlantan. There's not many of us, I think, left, but grew up here, and I am a senior solution engineer at Twilio. And prior to that, I was a principal architect at a company called Zora. So my interest in participating on this panel is mostly just to kind of share perspectives and experiences of what it's like to be a minority in tech, and I've also been helping serve as a
Great, thank you for being here today, Richard. I'm going to start with, why is the Women Who Code mission important to you? So why do you think it's important?
I can start. I just want to make sure, and can everyone hear me? Because I feel like a little feedback. Good. Okay, great. So why is this mission really important to me? I come from an industry very similar to the tech industry, right? Where we watch amazing, talented women of a range of backgrounds grow and then at some point there's a shift, something happens and they leave our industry, right? They in the traditional legal space, you see them leave law firms or leave corporate opportunities because there's something that's not making sense or not working. And for me, watching the same things happen in the tech space, it's really important for me to be a part of an organization that really cares about breaking that status quo and really creating the change we want to see day in, day out through action and through education and through really committing to provide the opportunities so that that doesn't happen and that we as women, and particularly as a Black woman, are able to succeed and show all the amazing things we have to offer. And so that's, you know, what brings me that's how I really attach the mission of the organization.
Shay, would you like to add to that?
Sure. Being that Women Who Code is a nonprofit organization that's purely dedicated to helping women level up in their technology careers, I resonate with that personally because there has been so many instances throughout my own life where that same dedication was poured into me in some way, in some capacity. Women birth our communities, they give, they teach, they uplift, they provide, and that love and care is one of the main reasons I am who I am today and have the passions and goals I have in my heart right now. So the mission is very, very important to me.
For me, the mission is extremely important because when I joined or started my tech career, I didn't look at myself as a Black male in technology. I looked at myself as a minority in technology. And it's important to focus on improving the minority experience in general. And that's women who code, that's Black men, that's, you know, any demographic that we want to look at that are not represented well in the workforce in technology. And if you focus only on your representation, then maybe you're missing the mark. So as a Black man, I felt it was important to make sure to be part of a movement like this and help lift all boats.
So right now we have people watching from the US and from around the world. So it would be great if we could take a moment and just check in with how we're feeling. And I'd like to pose this to the audience to use the chat if you'd like to answer how you're feeling as well. But for our panelists, if you think of a couple of words that could really describe how you're feeling about the current state of our nation's racial injustice, and anything that you can do to help paint the picture of what's happening.
I can go ahead and start off with this question, Joey. For me personally, it truly breaks my heart. It's disgusting, it's criminal, it's inhumane. I feel that there's nothing that can be said to truly empathize for the centuries of devastating abuse, neglect, pain, and betrayal that my community has endured. Overall, I think we just want to be heard and respected. We want equality, we want justice. And quite honestly, the thought of the work that has to be done to dismantle centuries of systematic oppression is just exhausting in itself, just thinking about it. Then you become fearful, some might become extremely sad, and then all of a sudden for some that could become rage. So I think it's been a whirlwind of emotions for everybody. But I do want to thank everyone that has joined us in this fight. We're going to need allies to make systematic changes happen. So don't be afraid to speak up in defense of our community. We're going to need all voices on our side to make a change.
For me, I had the oddest reaction, and I was actually shocked at myself. It was actually somewhat a bit of hope, because for the first time I heard voices that, you know, whether I thought they were an ally or a compatriot or, you know, just someone who was not racist. For the first time when they reached out to me, they talked about perspectives that they just really hadn't thought of. So myself, I'm an avid runner, and you know, I've done triathlons with my wife, and you know, one of the text messages was, "Man, you run all the time. That literally could have been you." I never pictured a person I knew this closely literally going for a run and not coming back. And for the first time in my lifetime, I heard people connect the dots. I could see those dots being connected. And then their outrage far exceeded mine, because they really saw the personal loss that was at the door, potentially. And while we have a lot to do, we first have to get past this initial period of, you know, people have to speak the language that they have right now, which is if it's anger, show it, do whatever you have to do. And then we need policy changes so that people know that they can wear their skin, they can wear who they are and not have fear for something as simple as going for a run, you know? And that was impressive to see that reaction. And that's the hope that I.
Yeah, I can say for me, it was the best word I can say is triggering. I am a protester. I'm what a protester looks like, right? I have been doing this for years. My family I come from an activist family, and whether it was understanding the first time that word was said to me when I was a child, or watching it happen as a sports player and realizing what it was, or seeing segregation firsthand in my life, or being in a law school event where someone came in blackface, right? And these are our future lawyers at that time. And so for me, this was triggering, because when this happened years ago with Eric Garner, and even before things had happened, but when it happened with Eric Garner, I was a part of that, right? I was a part of speaking up and wanting to take action. And then we're here almost 6 years later, and it's happening again and over again. And sometimes we see it and sometimes we don't. And so it was triggering, right? But then I'm like Richard, more people were speaking out in ways that they didn't before. And so I'm hopeful that we see change. But like Shay, it's not change that can happen with just few words and just a protest, right? And the people that are protesting know that. But it's systemic and structural change that needs to happen today, not tomorrow. And I often hear we say it's hard, and I just challenge that and say that if we believe that we're a nation that is supposed to do these things for everyone, regardless of race, creed, religion, sexual orientation, any of the things that we can name, then the time is now. And as someone that's in this space, as person in the legal community, I think it's imperative that we speak up, right? And that we say that it can be changed by simply changing it and changing the law. So I am both frustrated, saddened at times, right? Overwhelmed, but also hopeful, because if it doesn't change, then what does that mean? So I'm looking forward to seeing the status quo no longer be the same, and that we move to a better society that really lives the social contract that we said at the very beginning.
So staying with that theme of change, I'd love to hear everyone's ideas around how you think we can achieve racial justice and true equality.
So for me, I would say, it's imperfect action, right? I know that as understanding how laws are created and how things take, right? It's taking action, speaking up. It's understanding how all of us, even myself as a Black woman who experiences it all the time and who fears for my family members, that we all have to do this work and understand where and why these things happen, because the system works and impacts all of us in different ways. But I'm a part of a system that has both privileged me and hurt me at the same time, right? And so I think it's about us all speaking up, recognizing it, taking imperfect action, challenging ourselves and others around us in our immediate community and beyond, right? Are those that represent us to do what is this nation has said that we are supposed to do. And so, those are some things, like taking action, being part of organizations, putting your money where your mouth is, supporting those that are doing this work, because a lot of people are doing it. So we don't have to recreate the wheel, but we need to support the people that are doing it right now, right? And so those are some of the ways that I can see.
I think for me, I know there are so many layers to achieving racial justice and true equality, like so many layers, right? And so when you start to peel back those layers, you learn that my community is fighting for equal police treatment, equal education, equal health care, equal pay, equal ownership, et cetera, the list goes on. And then you begin to connect the dots to the systematic oppression that has been built for centuries to keep racial injustice alive. And so although I know there is not one answer to this, because there is a lot to achieve, I do think it starts with accountability. I think it truly starts with the oppressed being heard and our oppressors' willingness to end the injustice. I think it starts with voting, both local and national. I think it starts with policies to truly end voter suppression. I think it starts with equal education. I think it starts with living wages and guaranteed based income. I mean, the list goes on. So I think, in a nutshell, it's going to start with us respecting each other and working together to get to the ultimate goal, which is racial justice. I think that's a civic duty that we all have to upload for everyone.
Well said. For me, my wife and I have been walking a lot and talking and like asking ourselves, what part do we play in this? How do we, do something different? And one of the things that we, in reflection, realized we weren't doing was we were avoiding the uncomfortable conversations that we weren't avoiding when we were younger. And part of it was a convenience and a comfort. You get to a point in life and say, okay, I've kind of fought that fight, or this person isn't worth it. And we realize now we have to get back to that level of having those uncomfortable conversations with people who don't want to have them, because they have to hear those stories. They have to see that it's not just something on the news that's mischaracterized. And then on top of that, taking those stories that you want to share, sharing them by having a seat at the table, getting involved in the organizations that matter, that can actually, introduce the policy that you want to see introduced. So, I serve on the board of Overthorpe as well as a trustee, and I need to make sure the trustees hear these stories, because a lot of them may live in an insular world where they don't understand that we need to put in policies that protect minority students in our university and also help uplift them as well. And hearing the stories that I went through, so they can realize, no, this is a shared experience. So you need to share the story and share it in every capacity that you can, especially if you have a seat at the table where it matters.
So I'd love to hear about some things that you've done or hope to do for the current situation. And I'd like to ask the audience again to share your ideas too in the chat, as well as pose this question to the panelists. So what is it looking like right now for you or in the near future?
I'm glad you asked this question, Joey, personally, because I think a lot of us are struggling with the feeling of guilt right now in terms of how we are addressing the racial injustice. I think there's a lot of ways to be on the front lines outside of protesting, of course. And I was speaking with my mentor on Monday, and one thing she said to me was, you do strategy and you always execute. That is what you do. That's your talent. You know how to get things done. So that can be your gift to the movement. And so if you don't use what you are good at, what good are you in the fight? And so I think for me, my main challenge is to challenge everyone to think about where their talents lie and how they're going to accept their call to action, because everybody can pour something different into the movement. Personally, I'm a visionary and a builder, but I truly think this conversation can start by asking everyone again what their role is and how they best fit into the equation of pushing the agenda of racial justice forward. So for me, for example, some of the things I've done so far is signed petitions, sent letters, made phone calls to governor offices, mayor's office, district attorneys and attorney generals, donated to the George Floyd Memorial, Black Lives Matter, and the NAACP Legal Defense Fund. We all know we can't continue to go business as usual. We do need to talk about this revolution and uprising, but I am taking a mental note of all of the companies and businesses that are continuing to sell their services and products and ignore the pain of my people and the people they serve and employ as well. And while Black businesses and the Black community cannot end racial inequality or police brutality alone, we can lead by example and demand for greater change from our partners.
So, Shay hit on something that's actually been very important to me. My stepfather was a lawyer, and I have seen the benefits of where law can help you. So for instance, I'll share a quick story and talk about how I think people can help. But, so one time I was pulled over by a cop. I was driving his car. His car happened to be a nice luxury car. And the cop said something along the lines of, what are you doing in a car like this? You shouldn't have a car like this. And then he gave me a ticket for curfew, which was non-existent. It was garbage. So, of course, we go to court. My dad knows the judge because they're both legal compatriots. And he dismisses the whole thing. And I gave the cop a look on the way out. So it taught me early on the value of the ACLU, the value of the NAACP Legal Defense Fund, and where I the other thing I'm trying to encourage people to do is data science is a huge emerging field. Machine learning is huge in learning, but the problem is underrepresented voices are not there. So these algorithms are being built in terms of sentencing guidelines, policing guidelines. And if anyone here is interested in data science or machine learning, and you can get involved and argue these cases on how these things need to be modeled to balance for fairness, not just efficacy, because a lot of people want them to be very effective, but effective can often mean a negative impact on other people. So I highly encourage you, again, get involved by giving money to the people who are going to fight those fights in the courtroom. And also don't let these models now do automatically the miscarriage of justice that was being done by, the bigots and
Yeah, I to go to take it from there. I agree. The law, here's something that I always say, the law is everywhere. And a lot of us think of the law in the criminal space, right? But do you know there's in the US, no federal right to education, right? That has impact, right? Or that, the laws, just like we're saying, like how we're thinking about laws in family law or laws in estate planning and how those impact long-term individuals and how even those pieces are part of the system, right? And so for me, it looks like showing up, like Shay said, and using my strengths, because as I said earlier, I am a protester. I was out there. I was, even was out there the other day, but I know how I best show up and how I can really use my strengths to affect change in a much larger way than maybe I can as a protester, right? And so in my space, in the legal space in particular, everything is the law. Everything you touch, everything you breathe, everything you do. And so that means for me, working in an industry, in a space, in a system, to dismantle the things that are supporting the racial injustices that we see, which is our entire legal system, unfortunately. It's something that as you grow and you learn and you're in it, you see it and you understand it. It's challenging my colleagues. It's challenging how people show up for their clients, whether they're in the family space, the state space, business space, not nonprofit space, and really allowing us to use the laws in a way that really challenges the ills of our society. And that when there are issues that are still on our laws and our books, right, to really work to remove them, period, right? And so it looks like me using the skills that I have and allowing for people to really create the change they want to see. I look at that as being able to, whether that looks like as a lawyer practicing, as a coach, helping people fund their impact, because I do believe in economic empowerment. I do believe in being able to have the resources to do it. And so that's why organizations like Women Who Code are important, right? Because to be funded, to give to NAACP, to give to Equal Justice Initiative, to give to any of the defense funds, we have to have the financial resources to do it. And so for me, as someone that sits in a place of privilege, as a Black woman that is a practicing attorney that owns my own business, I recognize that both experience the ills of our society and have been benefited, that I must then challenge in every way and every time that I'm able to continue to grow. And so that's how I show up, by giving my time, by giving my knowledge, by speaking up, and by trying to work towards creating laws that are truly just.
Joey, there was a couple of questions in the chat that were asking about coders and whether it's the coder or is it the code that's biased. And I was saying that, and can you as an engineer be unbiased in your coding? And my answer to that is Judith, and my answer to that is there's the Apple Watch story. So when we lived in California, a bunch of my friends worked at Apple and I consulted there. And when the Apple Watch optical heart rate was being introduced, there was some misbalance in the data. And it turns out one of the things that was happening was, engineers are who they are, but there wasn't the thought of, maybe you should have the threshold of skin tone in there. The thought of that, and just having engineers around there like, hey, well, my heart rate isn't picking up as well as Mike's heart rate, and I see a pattern here of my dark skin, his dark skin, his dark skin, are the optical heart rate's not being picked up. That's is a small example, but the representation in the room will help reduce bias in technology. I think that you need to fight and be there, and when you see something happening, you need to mention those kind of things.
Yeah, thank you, Richard. And in looking at the chat, I see some people asking what can they do. So we've heard a lot about allyship, and we've heard you sharing what you're doing. I'd love to give you a moment just to address the people that are saying, how can I be an ally to the Black community? What can I do? You've already shared some great resources. Shay, you gave us a really strong list. What would you say to people who are asking this question?
I think for me, the first thing I would recommend is doing your due diligence and educating yourself. In order to stand with us and people that look like me, you have to be educated on issues that pertain to me. And I mean fully educated so that you can feel the full level of pain, so that you can have a full understanding. I truly personally believe when you increase your level of understanding, you increase your level of compassion and can ultimately lead to change. There's a Netflix series by Ava DuVernay called When They See Us. She also produced a documentary called The 13th. Both are on Netflix. And then one of my personal favorites that we actually just finished up in a Women Who Code book club, the new Jim Crow by Michelle Alexander. I highly recommend this book as well. So I think education is first, because then you begin to understand why we are grieving the way we're grieving. For years, Black people have tried peacefully protesting, going all the way back to 1965 and before with the Selma March, and that didn't work. We're still having these conversations today. You can even look at Colin Kaepernick's movement in 2016 when he took a knee and that agenda got moved to a flag, which was never his intent. He just wanted to raise awareness on social injustice, and that didn't work. We're still having this conversation today. And so now you see the language of the unheard, as MLK would say. So I think, once you understand exactly what we're going through, you'll realize that we're not asking for approval on how we choose to deal with the grief and fear that comes from being haunted by those that wear badges and those that weaponize their privilege against us every day. So I definitely would have to say, number one is educate yourself on what exactly is going on in the community, and don't rely on just what you're seeing on Twitter and Instagram.
Agreed. I think, the work is like both internal and external, right? You have to understand where you're coming from and why you're here and why you believe in racial injustice and why you want to take a stand. Because when things get tough, we all know this, right? When things get tough, when you have the commitment to something, you'll still push through it. And so that internal commitment is needed. As much as the education piece, because, at least from the US side, we are not educated on the history of Black and brown people in this organization, in this community, in this world. We know that, when the United States was started at its inception, race was an issue at its inception, but we have yet to fully address it and fully come to terms with what that means and how that's played out in all of the years to come to today. As someone who works and experiences and sees it today in 2020, I experience it today. It has not stopped, and you would hope that would be the case. And so I would say, educate yourself. Yes, do the work. Find the books. There's enough out there. Know who you're learning from, like Shay said, because I think that's really important. At this time, unfortunately, we have sometimes actors that take on a movement that don't really have the real reason at its core. So know who you're educating yourself from, know your internal why, so that you can be committed to it and push through it when times get hard. Because trust me, as a woman living in my body for over 4 decades, I've lived this, right? And I experienced this, and I know it gets hard, but I still have to push through. My life depends on it. And so if maybe your life doesn't, still have that inner drive to do the work and then take imperfect action. Because we don't expect perfection from anyone. I know I don't. At least I can speak for myself. That's not what I'm expecting, but I want to see, speak up, show up, let your actions match your words. When things are uncomfortable, as Richard said, have the uncomfortable conversations, because unless we really start talking about it, things aren't going to change. Unless we actually start taking the action, things won't change. And honestly, I would love to see us no longer have the saying that there are taboo conversations. Politics shouldn't be taboo. Religion shouldn't be taboo. Race shouldn't be taboo, because that is our lives. And so let's start speaking up and doing these things so that we can really create the change we want to see and dismantle these systems, these structures that have been set in place from day one to create the society that we want. And so it takes action. This is a verb, right? It's not a noun. It's not a thing that we think about. It's a practice every single day.
Hopefully my audio is better now. Can everyone hear me better?
It's a little low, I think, for me.
It's more clear but low.
It's clear but low. Mm-mm.
Okay. I have no idea what's going on. I apologize. I feel like I'm such a fraud of a technologist, so I can't speak clearly, but I'll hug the computer if I have to. So what I was trying to say was that everyone's kind of hit the most consistent thread perfectly, which is education. Education is everything. I'm so grateful for my father pushing us to read when we were young. So if you want to be an ally and you really want to
We can't hear you, Richard. That's okay. We can work through the technical difficulties though, because I know I hear your strong message trying to come through. I want to make sure you get a platform to share it. We've lost all the audio now.
All audio now. No.
So while Richard's restarting, and I want to make sure he gets space to share his message with you, there's a question in the chat that's asking, what can women who code in our community do? And so I wanted to thank the person who asked this question and pose this. Kim, you and Shay are leading women who code every day. Richard, the question from the chat was, what can women who code do? So I'm going to ask Kim and Shay to think about that, and we can hear you now, Richard. So
okay.
To share your
okay, so I think one thing women who code can do is, we're doing it today with the conference, but I think every opportunity where we can feature profiles, I don't want to use profiles encourage, that was an entire series in itself, but maybe profiles in the minority experience in the workplace, because I think part of the education is to get experiences out there. And I think more events or more maybe fireside chats to show stories, show how it was overcome, or help basically put the feelers out there. I'm going through something. I need help. This is what my situation is, so we can have those brave conversations. One of the other things I think that's very important, especially to women in technology, is facilitate conversations around pay. One of the boldest things I'm trying to do at my workplace is get pay transparency, right? I think the more that women who code can make sure that pay is transparent and advertise, this is what this pays out here for every single year. What are you getting paid? And maybe we all need to just take off our sensitivity and say, this is what I'm getting paid. Is it under or over or in between? That's going to help level the playing field as well. I think that's very important.
Great. And Richard, did you get to finish I'm not sure we heard your story there in response to what can I do as an ally?
It was just around education. I kept hearing the thread. I'm looking at the chat, and everyone turns back to education. And, you can't stop at, K through 12. You can't stop at higher ed. You actually have to do the work, like everyone's saying. And, I've got a reading list like 60 books long that I feel like I'm behind on, but it's perpetually showing me different perspectives. And I think that that's what we all need to do, is make sure we force ourselves out of our comfort zone, read about experiences that are not our own. One of the ones I'm looking forward to reading, my wife's Vietnamese, so I love reading a lot of books by Viet Thanh. If you guys aren't familiar with his work, it's just really great to see those perspectives. And this is a whole nother minority experience that I would never know. So read other perspectives, tie it to your own, find a commonality, and just keep educating yourself.
Great. And Shay, did you want to weigh in on what women who code can do, since you're reading that every day? And Kim?
Yeah, absolutely. I think I'm glad that Richard brought up the pay transparency, because I know that's difficult work Women Who Code is always advocating for. So I'm proud to know that I work for an organization that is having that conversation every chance we get. I think one area where we can continue to develop would be partnering with other organizations that are already doing the heavy lifting of advocating for racial injustice. Because like you mentioned earlier, Kim, there's no need to recreate the wheel. Let's just pour into those resources that already exist. So I think that's one area where I would challenge Women Who Code to spend a little bit more time in developing, is our partners, our external partners who are also advocating for racial injustice.
Yeah, and I think, as an organization, just continuing to do the work too, right? To internally make sure we're also being who we say we are, right? And living that and breathing that and taking imperfect action. I think showing people that that's how we show up, even when it's not, even then you don't, say the right thing, do the right thing every single time. We're humans, we all fail, right? But understanding that we're going to, get back up and keep on moving, because we really believe in this as a core tenet, right? And so I think, as an organization, as those that are volunteering and that are, helping others across this globe, it's continuing to speak up and having those uncomfortable conversations. And so supporting that, right? Supporting and providing that space like we're having here. I mean, with everything that's happened in the world, COVID happened, we know, right? We all are living through that. And then for us here in the US, watching what happened in the last couple of weeks as it relates to racial injustice, that on top of it. And so having a conference that was already planned, right, that we were moving forward to, and then allowing this space is taking the action. And so, as an organization and as those that are a part of the organization is continue to take the action imperfectly, right? But understanding at the core where it's coming from and why we're trying to do these things. So I think that's how, we show up as an organization. And another way too is just, challenging those that we work with, right? To say, hey, are you living and breathing the same thing that we believe in, right? Because we're here to serve a mission and those partners help us do those things. So just being true and honest and taking those imperfect actions is how we continue to show up.
Great. I want to thank all of you for your time, your insight, for what it takes personally to come into this space and share your personal journey and your story and your knowledge with our community. And thank you for being leaders of our movement. I want to leave with one last question, and then I know our audience that's watching is going to grab a quick break and check out some of the other features before heading into their first sessions. But as a final question, I'd love to ask if you have any words of advice for someone who's trying to make change, or a final resource that you'd like to share out, this direction that you want to point people to. What action would you like for them to take today?
I'm going to share a link in the chat, Joey, to the recent article that USA Today published. It's a list of 100 things you can do to join the fight. And the reason I'm going to share that link is because, as we mentioned earlier, I think everybody's contribution to the fight is going to be different depending on their talent. So this list has a little bit of everything from actual protests to donations and sign-in petitions, making phone calls. So I'm going to drop that link in the chat for everybody now.
I will say two calls to action for everyone. One, start with, there's a book that I really love. It's by Radia Rhodes. It's Being is the New Doing, right? And it's about really understanding your energy and how you show up. And I should have grabbed it, right? Because I have it back here somewhere, right? But it's about understanding how your energy and how that really leads to the results that you achieve. And so if we want this to be lasting, we need to understand how we're showing up. Right. So I would say read that book and take that action and really allow for you to understand how your energy, how you're showing up leads to the results that you're having. Because as she would say, the reason the reason society is like that, because we are kind of indifferent to it. Right. We're at this level of energy that will create the results that we have, which is the status quo and continuing injustice. So start with that, which is Being is the New Doing. I'll try to grab that link. And then the next one I would say is this, which is learn about the Equal Justice Initiative. I know there's a lot of organizations out there. I would totally say continue to learn about those. This is another one. Brian Stevenson, he's been working and doing this for a lot. There's a movie that's out now that everyone can watch for free, right? And, learn about it, take these actions, but this will start giving you the frame to start seeing why things are happening and the things that you can do immediately right now. So.
And for me, one of the things I've been trying to help with, we have an ERG, and in my speaking up, what I've said is, feel the emotions, feel everything you're going to feel right now, because you can't help that, but be very conscious of channeling your energy. Where you put these next, I guess you could say 30 days is the most important thing. If you can do just one thing every day for 1 minute that has a measurable impact in moving the needle forward on this, do that. Feel everything, be engaged with yourself. I've actually added meditation every morning just to make sure that I don't start the day angry. Everyone's out landing me. And then I say, okay, what do I need to do? And the main thing I've been doing is showing up, sharing my story, and not letting anyone get away with even the slightest bit of, social injustice. So channel that energy and be productive. I think the rest will take care of itself.
Great. Thank you so much. Again, I encourage all of you to continue this conversation throughout the day and throughout the Connect conference. And thank you for your leadership to all three of our panelists. Have a great Connect, everyone. We look forward to seeing you for the rest of the day.
Thank you,
Bye,
Joe.
everyone.
Bye, Richard.
Bye.